Hey there, welcome back to It's Just Another Day. Thanks for joining again. Please like the video, please subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that. I am starting with a new mic here, so hopefully we'll have some better audio quality. Had some issues with the previous one that I bought, so now we're running with top quality mics here. I want to talk today about private credit fears. They're deepening with the UBS warning of 15% defaults. And they were saying in the article, I'll put it in the comments, that the UBS Group AG laid out a worst case scenario for defaults in the private credit sector. So that's anyone who has any type of credit throughout the board here. So their outlook is worse than 2007. If you remember back then, that was when things were really bad with the housing market. And if you remember the movie The Big Short, one of my favorite movies, they really painted the picture. When you look at it in the scope of how the movie leads up to everything, you think, how could people not have seen this? But it's hard to really notice the patterns unless you're in it day to day and you really understand what's going on. The movie had to go through really explaining how these credit swaps work and shorting the market and the tranches and all this. I just remember it being a lot of information that I had never heard before. And so UBS is kind of pointing towards something that could happen similar to that. They said back in 2007, the default rate on subprime loans in the first 12 months had climbed to 8%, up from 1.5% in 2004 and 4.5% in 2006. So it was on a steady climb of defaults. And by July 2008, 1 in 5 subprime mortgages were delinquent, and 29% of adjustable rate mortgages were seriously delinquent. So that was one of the big things, if you remember in the movie, or if you just remember that time period. A lot of people were given these adjustable rate mortgages that, when they get in, oh, this is a great rate, I can afford the payment. But after a certain amount of time, usually 3 to 5 years, the rate starts to adjust, and all of a sudden, the payments that you could afford are substantially more. And a lot of people had really leveraged out so much debt that they just couldn't afford it. So people were just walking away from houses left and right, and the housing market crashed. So 2009 delinquency or foreclosure rates for U.S. mortgages had reached 14.4%. That is a massive number when you think about the millions of homes that were just abandoned, basically, or people got foreclosed on. So strategists, including Matthew Mish, say private credit could see default rates surge as high as 15%. So that's a lot higher than the housing market. Now, granted, this is the credit market, so it's not tied into homes specifically. But really think about it. How many people do you see that are living way above their means? You're thinking, how are they affording 2 cars where each car is like $70,000 or $80,000 a piece? And they've got kids, and they've got all kinds of toys and all kinds of things that cost a lot of money. And they're not making a ton. I mean, they might be making decent money. But on top of that, maybe they bought a house in the past 5 years, and their mortgage is probably, it might be a $400,000 or $500,000 or $800,000 house with this massive mortgage on top of that. So the problem is there's been so much credit that's been put out there, especially with houses that were sold in the past, 4 or 5 years with pandemic increases. And I mean, it just went crazy. And insurance has gone up substantially too. So direct lenders that took a lead role in financing software companies in recent years, they're also looking at AI's impact. And here it is again, we're talking about AI. So you have these people with jobs that are leveraged to the hilt, have all this credit out there. And the article talks about the if artificial intelligence triggers an aggressive disruption among corporate borrowers, that's going to create a lot of problems. And what that means is there are a lot of companies that are really starting to gravitate towards artificial intelligence and decreasing their workforce. And that's a scary proposition for a lot of Americans, because the jobs that you rely on, you may only have a certain skill set that you can do, and AI can wipe the floor with you because it's so much faster and smarter and can make better decisions in a lot of areas. It's still not perfect, but that's what UBS is kind of sounding the alarm, saying, hey, we see AI getting exponentially better. A lot of companies looking to cut their costs. We could see a lot of people getting laid off very soon. So the issue too is some estimates suggest that the firms have 40% of all sponsor-backed loans tied up in the software industry. And so that's one of the concerns, is that they have all the software that they're trying to sell, that AI can also do a better job. And I think we talked about that the other day, where a lot of these finance companies, retirement companies that help to provide guidance with your funds, with your money, how is AI going to take that over and make a lot of these agents irrelevant? And so that's one of the concerns that they're talking about here. So the warning is about the $1.8 trillion industry that's been building in recent days, triggered by Blue Owl Capital's decision to permanently shut the gates on one of its funds and to sell assets. So it's a $2.4 billion drop in market value, dragged down the shares of other private credit players. And, it's kind of a big deal. A lot of this is just possibly the tip of the iceberg before things really start going bad. So, USB report published Tuesday noted that private credit defaults are currently between 3 and 5%, and that signs of strain such as interest paid in kind are nearing post-pandemic highs. So, when a company is putting out this information and trying to give a warning, letting people know that, hey, we should probably be paying attention, there's got to be some attention paid to that. So if you remember Danny Moses, he was one of the money managers in The Big Short. I had to look him up to remember which one he was, because you have different actors playing different people. But they were talking to him, and he said the aggressive push by private markets into retail products reminds him of the years preceding the subprime mortgage crisis. So again, it's companies pushing towards, instead of dealing with people, dealing with different products that they can sell to do the job for them. And so earlier this week, stocks slid after a report from Citrini Research outlined a scenario where AI advancement led to a double-digit U.S. unemployment rate by 2028. So they're already running the scenarios. They're saying, based on some of the push of what these companies are trying to do, it's going to put a lot of people out of jobs. And what those jobs entail, who knows? It's going to probably be a lot of tech jobs, maybe a lot of developer jobs. I know some friends of mine who do development, and it's incredible how fast you could type in some prompts to put together something, and just within minutes, all the code's written for something that they need that might have taken them maybe a day to program. It's so exponentially faster. Now, it's useful for those that understand how to use AI to speed up the process to get more done. But there comes a point where, instead of a manager and a staff of 10 people, you might have a manager and maybe an assistant that doesn't even know how to program, just to help with, the last quote here, what everyone's worried about is we haven't even had a shakeout in private credit yet. And a recession is that ultimate shakeout. So that's one of the things we'll leave this on. Are we going to head towards a recession with the AI push and a lot of people losing jobs? And think about how many people are going to lose their jobs that are living large on all this credit that we talked about in the beginning, where they won't be able to afford it, and people have to, have their homes repossessed by the banks, cars, boats, all kinds of gadgets and stuff. So it is a little bit of a scary thing to think that these AI improvements and things that they're using to really help improve productivity could be the downfall of a lot of people with their careers, with their jobs. And hopefully it doesn't come to that, but something to prepare yourself for. I know there's a lot of talk that the stock market could be, I think it was either by 2028 or 2030, talk about the stock market being anywhere from 70 to 80,000 points for the Dow. And Trump thinks it'll get to 100,000 points. That'd be great. It'd really help with our 401ks and all that. But I mean, is it really going to do that? Are we poised for a recession? Are we looking at a stock market crash? Are we looking at a housing market crash? Some of the people that I follow have been talking about the coming housing market crash for a long time, especially in certain areas where it just tripled and quadrupled in price all across the country during the pandemic. And it's unsustainable to think that people can afford to buy those houses and live in those houses when the salaries just haven't kept up. Anyway, let me know what you think is coming with regards to possible credit defaults and also AI taking over and any job losses as a result. Thank you again for watching. Please again subscribe, and I hope you have a great afternoon and evening. Take care.